Alright. Wanna see how much longer we have to go? We've made no progress on the romance. This one, this one, this one, this one, and then an epilogue. This has been really interesting, and I don't require romance in a story, but I do love it a lot, and it will elevate a story for me. And I do think it's so intriguing. Like, there's a lot of intrigue about this route, which is great. But there is so little romance that every time I'm like, oh my god, we're gonna get like a little bit of it. Every time we don't, I get disappointed. And I'm like, well, this disappointment's gonna keep building up until, like, I don't care anymore when it does happen. Because there's only so much edging, you know what I mean? Yeah, let's go. Donk, 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 donk. Might put some stuff on my monitor. I'm fretting about it. I've called Eok to come inside. I want to set things straight. I didn't like the look he gave me. A look of disappointment. You called? He announces himself as he enters the room. Yes, please sit. A gesture towards the couch. As Eok sits down, his tail wrapped around his waist to make room for me, he looks at me with curious eyes. I wanted to explain myself a little more, I say, from earlier today. The Invisible Man, Eok says. Yes, he works for a terrorist organization. We're using him to get some information that could be vital, I explain. But you lied, yes? I don't really want to see it as lying. Valkii, I'm no fool when it comes to extortion and crimes. Sometimes we end up doing bad things and we have no choice in the matter. Caught off guard that Eok would cut me off, I shut my mouth and listen. As you know, I am with the Resistance back on planet Yule, he starts slowly. But before that, I was a regular soldier. I participated in missions. I have actively helped out Lord Veritas to conquer planets. Eok casts his eyes downward, like he regrets it. I was just a soldier, doing what he's told. So who is at fault? Me for committing the crime, or Prince James for commanding me to? I shake my head. Wouldn't it be Lord Veritas? He's at the top. James is just following his command as well, isn't he? Exactly. We were all just following orders. It wasn't until I met Princess Lana that the resistance began to form. He fiddles with his hands, looking uncomfortable. But even then, I have had a hand in some atrocious deeds. I am not proud of them. I guess I just never stood still to think about the fact that Eok has done his fair share of war crimes as well. He's always been very genuine and helpful from the moment I met him. It's hard to imagine him as anything else. I hate the regime that Lord Veritas created, the bloodshed that has been spilled. I wanted to stop it, but I'm not innocent either. That is why I sympathize with the Invisible Man. If you can ignore my previous deeds, why not for this man as well? I swallow loudly as his words reflect in my mind. I mean, it seemed like your parents wanted to help him too, so like, why don't you? That's a very loaded question. So the fierce option is doubling down on defensiveness, and the kind option is being like, yeah, you're right, like admitting that, you know, he has a point. That's annoying to me because we're going for the passionate ending, but whatever. Because I know you personally. You haven't done me wrong. I have done many things, Valkii. Perhaps not to you, but you should not treat me like I am innocent of any wrongdoing. I guess this is why James called me a hypocrite. I've been helping out Eok because he's been nice to me, but Mr. Invisible is just a stranger. I don't know. I guess it's hard for me to imagine you plundering and pillaging, I admit. Eok chuckles. What about Prince James? I've definitely seen evidence of his crimes, which is why there had been animosity between us from the start. And I've also seen some of his good sides. I guess no one is truly black and white. Valkii, sometimes good men commit bad deeds. I flash him a gentle smile. Eok, I never pegged you to be so eloquent with words. I point out, slightly impressed by him. It's because of my disguise, isn't it? He asks regretfully. I admit, I never thought you could be so insightful compared to our first meeting. I give him a slight bow of my head. Thank you for pointing out my hypocrisy. I didn't mean to offend you, he says sheepishly. But I didn't want you to turn someone away when there could be more to the story. Do you think you can help him? I chew on my bottom lip as I try to think of a way to make sure I live up to my promise. I think I can ask Forrester Inc. for help. They are a huge company. Surely they can produce some new papers for him, I say absent-mindedly. Now I only need to convince them to do it. Suddenly, Eric comes crashing our conversation. In case you missed the entire first part of the day, Forrester Inc. is the reason we're in this mess with Julio in the first place, Eric chides me. Hey, were you listening in all this time? I question him, annoyed he barged in like that. What kind of crazy plan are you concocting now? Nothing. I think we can actually give Mr. Invisible a new identity if we ask for Forrester Inc.'s help. What makes you think they'll help? Because of them, Julio got their hands on the most powerful weapon on Earth. Exactly. It's their fault. If they want to put a stop to it, they should help us out. Our goals would be aligned. Didn't Kane say they already have a team of supers on the case? Yeah, but we have an informer that has direct contact with the supposed leader. I think we have the upper hand here. I say we confront Forrester Inc. Eric shakes his head. You do realize that means we have to tell them how we met the informant, right? The whole vigilante thing? Eric rolls his eyes. Not necessarily. We don't have to explain how we came to meet Mr. Invisible. There's also no need to tell them about Kane. We can just say that we're aware of the situation because of our informant. Eric remains quiet for a bit, closing his eyes. I hate to acknowledge it, but you bring up a good point, he grumbles. You think Forrester will help us? Eok asks, hopefully. Maybe. We'll definitely give it a shot, though, I say, smiling at him. You're way too comfortable with this, Eric observes. To think my sister had a knack for playing superhero. Well, someone pointed out I'm being a hypocrite, I say, looking at Eok. I couldn't exactly do nothing after that. He chuckles nervously. It is just my humble opinion. So, tomorrow? I suggest. Alright, we'll visit them tomorrow, Eric agrees. And they're just going to be like, it's fine, you're, going against the rules that we put in place for you. To think I'm back so soon. It was hard to get a hold of Neil Forrester. His secretary said scheduling a meeting with him could take 2 months. He must be a ridiculously busy man or ridiculously important to have such long waiting times. Probably both. Of course, after saying we were part of the date team, the secretary miraculously found an opening for us. This man is grating on my nerves, says Eric irritatingly. Getting impatient? I question. It's been 20 minutes since our appointment. Where is he? Does he enjoy making us wait? Eric's been very tense since we arrived. After all, it's his invention that got set loose to the world, now being weaponized by a terrorist organization, all because of Forrester Inc. I assure you, I have much better things to do with my time than purposefully make your life miserable by waiting a measly 20 more minutes, Neil announces as he barges into the room with 2 of his goons. About time you showed up, Eric sulks. Neil sits down at his desk, eyes closed and fingers folded together. Now, what was so important you had to meet with me today? He asks, his serious eyes staring at us. Have the extraterrestrials caused any troubles? He asks, raising both his eyebrows at us with a questionable glance. There's something about the way he refers to Eok and James as extraterrestrials that bothers me. Like it makes them appear more robotic or different from us. I want to say it's dehumanizing, but they're not exactly humans in the first place. They've been on their best behavior, I say. That is good to hear. Then what is the issue here? How could you let the blueprints be stolen? Eric accuses him. Neil is visibly surprised, then quickly waves at the 2 guards standing near the door. They understand his gesture and leave the room. Blueprints stolen? What is this ludicrous idea? He asks with an air of arrogance. Cut the crap. We know it got stolen by Julio. Now they're making a weapon out of it. How could you? Eric quickly barks back, leaving no room for argument. Neil remains silent for a moment, his eyes narrowed in contemplation. So, he drawls out. Who told you? We have an informant that works for Julio. He told us. I jump in. What is going to happen now? People can lose their ability? That's insane and dangerous, I say. We are very aware of the situation, says Neil as he leans back into his office chair. We've deployed a team of supers that are on the case. You do not need to worry. Not worry? My bracelet's blueprints have been stolen and weaponized against supers. What are you doing to stop it? Eric demands to know. Mr. Hurst, that's nothing to concern yourself with, Neil stresses. It definitely concerns us, I chip in. Do you even know where Julio's headquarters are? Eric questions. Seeing Neil's silence is enough to know that he, in fact, doesn't know where Julio is. Our informant might know, I say, but he won't help us unless he gets something in return. Something in return? Neil repeats. He wants out, a new identity. If we can get one for him, he'll let us know where Julio's leader is. That's not exactly what I told Mr. Invisible. He's supposed to send proof Benjamin is alive, but I figure the details aren't as important when talking to Neil Forrester. You think I trust the word of this mysterious informant of yours? Miss Hurst, I believe you aren't even a registered superhero. Does it matter? If we can help out and make sure to stop Julio from using the blueprints, why would you deny us? I question. Miss Hurst, unless you're registered, you're forbidden to use your ability in public. We've already had to deal with the super mall girl fiasco from before. Neil rubs his temples with a sigh. I'm not using my ability, I groan. We have a way of cleaning up the mess you made. All we need is a little something in return. I can assure you, our best supers are on the case. We do not need help from civilians like you. I cannot say more about it than this, but my decision is final. Are you sure about that? Because if they have the ability to stop anyone's powers, I'm pretty sure your best supers won't hold a candle against the weapon. They'd be instantly useless, says Eric. That is for us to handle. Please have faith that we are doing the best we can to combat Julio's operations. He rattles off like a spokesperson trying to cover up a grave mistake. We're not leaving unless you get us those new identity papers, I state loudly. Neil chuckles at my posture. Miss Hearth, I could have you removed at any moment I want to, so let's not resort to petty threats. Look, we have a chance to find out Julio's location of operation. All we need is to give our informant the necessary reward. Mid-20s, male, Caucasian. Surely you can get a new identity for him. As much as I like hearing your comical ideas, I'm not entertaining the notion any further. We have it handled, says Neil exasperatedly. What exactly do you have handled? You allowed my design to get stolen and to be used as a weapon. We could very well let the public know, Eric interjects. This makes Neil narrow his eyes in response. I do not take that threat of going public lightly. Tread carefully, Mr. Hearth, he says in a chilly tone. Sometimes the way that the speech ends is not the way that it should, if you know what I mean. He says chilly. Like, that's not right, right? I don't know, it just to my ears, it doesn't sound right. We've already allowed a lot of leeway for the both of you, including allowing the extraterrestrials to cohabitate with you. Do not test our patience, he warns us. Before I can get another word in, Neil gets up from his desk with a confident stance. Now, I have a lot of work left to do. I'll take it you will leave without causing any problems, he asks us. I ball my hands into fists, feeling powerless to convince him otherwise. I know I was being a hypocrite by not actually helping out Mr. Invisible, but now that I've decided to get him that new identity, I feel like I've failed him. No, we're leaving, I say, biting down on my lip. Eric looks at me expectantly, but once I get up from my seat, he follows suit. Will you let us know if you've destroyed all their data about the bracelet? Asks Eric. I'm not allowed to disclose that, Neil says robotically. I click my tongue at him. Come on, let's go, I tell my brother. Well, that went well. We'll leave the Forrester building with heavy hearts. This is all just so frustrating. I couldn't do anything this time around. No leverage. Unable to sleep with this on my mind, I roll around on my bed and punch my pillow. Without Forrester Inc.'s help, I cannot give new papers to Mr. Invisible, which means I'm unable to keep my promise after being chided by Eok about it. This really sucks. How did my parents do it? They were going to help him out, and Mr. Invisible did say he was going to meet with them on the day that they died. But that was over 8 years ago. Where would I even start? Maybe I can find something in the basement that was left behind. I fling my legs out of my bed and exit my bedroom. On my way to the basement, I pass by James, who's enjoying a beverage that looks suspiciously a lot like hot chocolate. Did you learn to make it yourself? I ask, pointing at his cup. James looks down at his beverage before his brown eyes flicker over to me again. I could not operate the heating device. It wouldn't warm the liquid, he says. Oh, the microwave, you mean? Here, it's simple, I say as I walk towards him and take the cup out of his hands. I throw it into the microwave and immediately press the largest button, which automatically starts counting down from 1 minute. After a minute, it beeps and I remove it from the microwave, handing it over to James. Enjoy, I tell him with a slight smile. Are you going to your parents' lair? He asks as he sees me walk towards the door of the basement. Lair? I repeat. That sounds funny, like it's an evil lair. Yes, I would like to see if there's anything down there that could help me out. Help you out, or the man we questioned? He inquires. He's got a good intuition. The invisible man, I answer. Want to help? James doesn't answer, he just follows me downstairs. I take it you've decided to help out our little fiend after all, he drawls out, smugly sipping on the hot chocolate. Yes, Eok talked some sense into me. Good, then you can stick to your convictions as you said you would, he says sagely. I don't want to hear that coming from someone who was totally okay with torturing the poor man, I say, shaking my head. Hey, they're your convictions, not mine. Besides, it was a bluff. I am unable to act on my threats in this state. He gestures at the bracelet on his wrist. So if they... No. I was going to say, if they use that on James, would it break the bracelet? Like, somehow cancel it out, and then he would be able to use his powers? I don't know. I sit down in the chair, staring at the powered-off computer screen. My parents were going to help him with a new identity. He claims he was going to meet with them on the day of their death, so they must have had something prepared for him. I just don't know what or where. Just a reminder, I cannot read your earthling language, he says casually. The babblefish may translate spoken words, but not written ones. Yes, I understand. I think if we're looking for new documents, it should include a picture of him at least. I pick up one of the folders from the racks next to the desk, calmly browsing through its contents. Do you think you can help me browse through all the papers here and look for his face in one of the pictures? I ask him. The invisible runt? That's the one. You remember his face, right? I never forget a face, he reassures me. Good, let's get to work. I pull out another folder and hand it over to James. He gives me a pointed look before taking it from my hand and flipping through the pages as he holds up his cup of chocolate with his other hand. We begin browsing through the various folders that are archived in the basement, placing the ones we've already checked on a different pile. Is this not him? Says James, showing me the folder in his hands. I can feel myself getting excited as I see it is a picture of him. Then my hope is crushed when I realize it's just the regular file they have on him, the very first one I looked through. It is, yes, but it's not the file I'm looking for. It might be closed in an envelope or hidden somewhere. I keep the folder open on the desk as a reference point of his profile picture. We resume our work going through each drawer one by one. 2 hours later, we're almost at the last drawer. I yawn out loud and stretch my arms in the air. If you're tired, you should rest. There is no need to stay awake to look through everything in a single night, says James. I crack my neck. It's fine. I wouldn't be able to sleep otherwise, with this weighing on my mind. I ignore his advice and comb through the rest of the files. There's a lot of information my parents have accumulated throughout the years. So much personal info on supers, it's almost like they were paparazzi. The idea that my parents may have left the papers with Mr. Invisible's new identity behind is far-fetched, but it would feel wrong not to at least try and find out. An hour later, and we've completely looked through the green archive, but there's still some more files behind us. What time is it? 4 a.m.? I can't keep track of the time when there are no windows in the basement. My eyes glaze over as I flip through the pages, the faces getting all blurry to me. Soon, I find my own eyes closing. Oh my god, POV switch? Aww. I don't think it's ever happened in Tailor Tales. I don't know why I get my hopes up for it. I jerk awake with a jolt, snapping up my head from the desk as I felt something touch my hair. I blink up in a daze at James, who stares back at me with an equally confused expression. James steers away his gaze and quickly pulls his hand back to his side. He looks like he's been caught doing something he's not supposed to. You were asleep, he says in a robotic tone. What were you doing? I ask groggily. His eyes widen for just a fraction of a second, but he quickly masks it with a poker face. I've been browsing through all this paper, he states. I brush the hair away from my face, distinctly remembering something touching my hair and moving it. Were you touching me? I ask, demanding to know. I was making sure you were really asleep, he says with a slight cough. By touching my hair, I cock my head to the side, staring at him with blank eyes. James's expression becomes increasingly more uncomfortable, almost as if he's fidgeting at this point. I admit my curiosity got the better of me. I apologize, he says politely. Curiosity? This is confusing me, but the fact James would willingly want to touch me is making me feel all kinds of nervousness. What were you curious about? I ask quietly. He looks like he really doesn't want to answer that question, opting to narrow his eyes at me. You should return to your room and get some rest. It is unsightly to be drooling on the table, he says, avoiding my question. I wipe the corner of my mouth with the back of my hand, finding a little bit of dried drool there. Ah, crap, I must have been asleep for a while. Hey, don't avoid the question, I grumble. I found something while you were sleeping, he says, ignoring me again. Suddenly, an envelope is shoved in front of my face. It's been torn open by James. Interestingly, This is the thing again. It should just say interested. Right? Interested, I take it from him and remove the papers inside. Or intrigued may be a better word for that one. A plastic ID card tumbles out of it and lands on the desk. My eyes grow large when I recognize the person in the picture. It's Mr. Invisible, except the ID card does not say his real name, Alexander Kotov. It says Jeremy Backstein. This is it! I cry out in happiness, standing up from the chair with the ID card in my hands. The rest of the papers are a fake birth certificate, some kind of vaccination booklet, and a passport as well, matching his ID card. The ID card has since expired, yeah, I was gonna say that, due to lying in this basement for 8 long years. However, there's still 2 years left on the passport. Mr. Invisible could easily request a new ID using this. He could leave Julio like he wanted to. This is what you were looking for? James asks, seeing my happy expression. Feeling myself float on a cloud, I throw my arms around James's neck, pulling him in for an embrace. James stiffens up at my hug, his arms stretched outwards, standing motionless. Yes, this is exactly what I was looking for. Ugh. He groans as I squeeze him and press my face against his chest. She's like, in his boobs. His heart beats in a pleasant melody. Thank you so much. I can't believe it was actually here after all, I say with a giggle, so happy they left the papers behind. James starts, suddenly swallowing his own tongue. I release him from my death grip, my arm sliding down his neck so I can get a proper look at his face. Except he immediately turns around to hide his face. Well, whatever. I'm too happy to care about his grumpy attitude. I turn my attention back on the papers, scanning through the information. It's all here. I can actually bargain with Mr. Invisible and help finish what my parents started. I neatly tuck everything back inside of the envelope and keep it on top of the desk. Come on, let's sleep, I tell James. Huh? He says, expression puzzled. I push against his back so he'll walk up the stairs. Sleep! After hounding him up the stairs, he whirls around to face me. There is no need to express your gratitude this way, he says awkwardly. I raise my eyebrows at him. Oh, does he think we're seducing him again? Holy shit. What are you talking about? In what way? I ask, confused. You do not need to bed me. Verbal gratitude is sufficient enough. I blink in confusion. Did I hear that right? No, I must be sleepy. I was just telling you to sleep. You don't want to join? He asks, equally confused now. I almost guffaw in response. That's what you think I was saying? Your earthling ways are very contradicting. Perhaps you should be clearer in your wording, he hisses back in embarrassment. How about you stop misconstruing everything I do as some sort of seduction tactic, I reason. And quit being so seductive, he blames me. I tilt my head to the side. Wait, he says. Oh my god. Wait, he says, realizing the gravity of his words. I mean... Oh, so that's how it is. I see, I drawl out. No. You think I'm being seductive? Or is it that you're just attracted to me, so everything I do seems like I'm seducing you? I dart around him with a flirty smile. That is not what I mean, he says in a flustered tone. James, you should reel yourself in. I'm not actively trying to get you into bed here. Those are all your own interpretations. He's accused me of this too many times. I can't help just being the way I am. He parts his lips to speak, but then closes it just as quickly. He runs a hand through his short hair, mulling it over. With a heavy sigh, he closes his eyes. Your actions are vexing. I am not completely immune, he grumbles lowly. My throat suddenly turns dry. I'm dumbstruck. My sleepiness has waned and now I'm wide awake. Immune? I repeat sheepishly. I haven't done anything on purpose. Is he saying that whatever he thinks I'm doing is actually having an effect on him? I apologize for misinterpreting. I'm merely trying to rebuff your advances, he explains solemnly. That's a blow to my ego. He thinks I'm making moves on him, so he's rejecting me in advance. I haven't even flirted with the man for real, and he's already rejected me. Maybe Earthlings are different, but for Rahu, we take seduction seriously. We mate for life, so not anyone can attempt to court us. They mate for life? I can see why he would be so conservative in response. Oh, that must mean James has never been intimate with anyone. Oh my god, he's a virgin? He's a virg? Not that I needed to know that. Totally not at all. Look, I'm really not trying to court you or anything, I explain myself. If I'm romantically interested in someone, then maybe I'll touch them more often. I would smile around them or perhaps blush. I will seek them out for their company or assistance, maybe even confide in them. What, you mean every single thing you already do with James? I mean, I don't think you touch him more often. At this point, I'm just rambling, but James needs to realize whatever he thinks I'm doing, it's not what it means. I don't know why I'm so hung up about it. It's just a misunderstanding. But James's comment about not being immune to whatever he thinks I'm doing has rattled me. He pins me down with a long and pointed stare, remaining quiet all this time. Very well, then let's put this behind us, he says slowly. Gladly, I say, smiling awkwardly. Let's just rest for now, okay? Thank you for your help. He gives me another weird stare before finally turning around and walking up the stairs. All the while, I can't stop thinking about his comment. He's not immune? I'm not going to be able to go back to sleep. In the morning, I send a text message to Mr. Invisible that his papers are ready in return for proof of life. Focus, Valkii. Stop thinking about last night. James is going to kick my ass otherwise. Not that he can, but it's a figure of speech. Oh god, here he comes. I dodge to the side, avoiding his massive body coming straight at me. I defend myself the best I can, but he's sneaky and manages to catch my wrist. He spins me around and brings me in close to his body, keeping me locked down. I struggle to break free, but I'm hardly even trying at this point. I can't help but focus on the rhythm of his heart, or how his large torso is pressed against my back. Then all of a sudden, he releases me with a click of his tongue. You're not even trying to break free, he observes. I honestly have no excuse. If you're not going to take this seriously, then run back to the house and let me train in peace, he says gruffly. I have better things to do than train someone who doesn't put in any effort. I'm sorry, I say with a gulp. I'm just a bit distracted. Distractions can be deadly, he hisses. I know. Then focus. I shake my head, trying to clear my mind. I do need to focus. This is stupid. Okay, ready, I shout back at him, getting into my stance. I try my best to get back into training, parrying, deflecting, even throwing in some punches. Lately, I've been favouring low kicks to get him down into the dirt. Or at least that's my intention, but the practicality of it leaves much to be desired. Come on, go down, I say, trying to get him to bend the knee. How many times do I have to tell you? A leg sweep won't work on someone of my size, James explains. You're too petite for this. You might find a glimmer of success if I'm already in motion and caught off guard. I pout at him. I wanted to sweep him off his feet, but I guess he's too much of a brick wall for that. Alright, how do I catch you off guard? I ask in return. Do you think your enemies would casually tell you how to bring them down? That's why I'm asking you, not my enemy. At least we're not supposed to be enemies. James sighs loudly and stands up straight. Fine. If you want to be crafty, look for a blind spot. Every species has one. I gesture at his whole body. Well, what's your blind spot? It always seems like you can see everything or anticipate what I'm going to do before I know it myself. As much as I appreciate the compliment of my abilities, I am, however, not omnipotent. He points to the back of his head. I do not have eyes in the back of my head, in case you hadn't noticed. I snort at his sarcasm. I've become very acquainted with the back of your head. You don't need to point out the obvious, I reply. That seems to grow James's expression to a humbler one, as he's probably recalling the time I cut his hair, when I found out how his ears are a big weakness of his. That's still an awkward memory, and now I can't stop thinking about James's blushing face. God, I kind of want to see him make a face like that again. James coughs into his hand, catching my attention. Girl, you fancy him. The point is, if you want to catch me off guard, it has to be in a position where I cannot see you or when I'm too distracted to pay attention. I shrug, but your senses are super sharp. You can tell I'm behind you even when I don't make a sound. He crosses his arms, smirking slightly. That's because I have a keen sense of smell. I can't tell if you're praising yourself or if you're saying I stink. Both, he answers matter-of-factly. My jaw drops open in response. He really said I smell. Not even a white lie or anything. Well, excuse me for sweating when training out on a hot day, I say, feeling mildly slighted. The perspiration is not the issue. You merely smell like an earthling. He attempts to explain his statement. I lift up my armpit to smell myself. What the hell does a human even smell like? But you have a different scent than the other earthlings. It's distinct. Dirtier. I'm ready to throw hands. Dirtier? He shakes his head. No. Incorrect choice of words. I meant dirt. Your essence is more like dirt. I try to control myself from having an outburst. James, you better stop talking right now. Over here, calling someone dirt is a pretty low insult. James exhales a heavy sigh, rubbing his temples. This is puzzling me. It was not meant to be an insult. My arms are crossed, and I stare at him with a judging glare, not wanting to further argue with him on this point. Forgive me if I spoke out of line. Seeing James unexpectedly act humble because of his words, it does make me feel a little better. I make a mental note to start wearing unscented deodorant from now on. Alright, I drawl out awkwardly. Why would you wear unscented deodorant? It's not like the deodorant you use will smell of dirt. It's your natural scent, so if you're using unscented deodorant, then you're not... Or does that just mask the smell of dirt? I don't know. Just spray perfume all over yourself. But he seems to like the dirty smell. I don't know. Let's resume training, he grunts loudly. Perhaps then you can hold your own against someone on the same level as Eok. James gets ready into a stance, but instead I lower my arms, letting them hang to the side. Hey, James, I start, suddenly recalling my conversation with Eok. His brown eyes flicker to meet my gaze and he relaxes his posture. What now? Have you decided to quit? Eok said that sometimes good men do bad things. Seems that little runt has the capacity for philosophical thought after all. He looks pleased about this. Where does that leave you? I ask. What? He echoes flatly. I start advancing closer to him, dragging my feet across the dirt. I'm asking, are you a good man doing bad things, or are you a bad man doing bad things? I can see I could see James roll his eyes so much it's practically doing a 180 in his sockets. What kind of childish question is this? Through what metric are you categorizing them as good or bad? He huffs. It's a simple question, really. Do you think your intentions are good? All of a sudden, James has closed the gap between us. Oh, I thought the music changed to something sexy. I yelp in surprise when he wraps one arm around my waist and lifts me up from the ground. Then he tosses me into the air like a ninja throwing star. I'm ejected above the canopy of the trees, way too high up. James! I scream in a panic. I come crashing down towards the earth, but not before James catches me in his arms, distributing the kinetic force of my fall through the grace of his actions. I'm completely bewildered for a second, my heart beating fast and my mind still trying to play catch-up. He's not putting me down, instead still carrying me in his arms. Don't forget who I am, says James in this foreboding tone as he peers down into my eyes. I could end your life in a second with these hands of mine. He tightens his grip on me to illustrate his point. My intentions are purely selfish, so don't try to force me into your black and white worldview. As I finally find my voice, I can't help but laugh at him. Seriously, you had to throw me up in the air to intimidate me? Unnerved by my positive reaction, James doesn't look like he knows what to do with me anymore. I tap his shoulder. Now, put me down. Without even a single word of complaint, James gently places me down onto the dirt. I wipe down my clothes, having caught a bunch of dust as he threw me into the air. I know you're not an innocent man, James. Certainly not a tragic hero one, but you can't fool me with your empty threats anymore. You're not going to kill me, nor hurt me for that matter, so let's stop the pretenses. I give him a cheeky grin. I am merely reminding you of my past transgressions and the amount of power I have over you, he finally responds. What power? I say, flashing the back of my hand to him, our oath. And so what? Even without it, you still wouldn't have done anything to me, I say with an air of confidence. James growls at me, his patience growing thin. What is your point with all this drivel? Honestly, it's more for me. My point is, Eok reminded me that even people with a bad history deserve a second chance. I scratch my head, trying to find the words to explain myself better. I'm saying I've changed my mind about you, and that I forgive you for kidnapping me. It's a simplified version of what I really feel. The more I've gotten to know James and his history, the more I realize that he's just a product of his surroundings. What truly matters is how he acts going forward, without these chains of commitment and threats holding him back. Who is the man he's going to choose to be now that he has the freedom? I know he's under the oath, so strictly speaking he has no freedom, but I am finding myself willing to remove it. And while I doubt he's helping us fight off Lord Veritas because he cares about humanity and Earth, he did say it was for his sister. I do believe that a small part of him wants to help me. Or at the very least, he doesn't want me to die. You have a very strange mindset if you think combat training was the appropriate time and place to air all of your grievances, he says with a small sigh. Grievances, by the way. I didn't mean to say grievances. I shrug my shoulders at him, my smile not leaving my face. You could just say something as simple as, I understand, in return, you know? The agitation present in his eyes tells me he's not in the mood for this, but with another weighty groan, he says it. I understand. Good, I say cheerfully, clapping my hands together. Oh, and another thing. What now? He asks, peeved. Before he knows it, I have jammed my foot into the back of his knee, making him bend. With a low kick, I sweep him off his feet. Finally catching him off guard, he stumbles forward, landing on the dirt. A rush of accomplishment flows through my body, burning all my nerves. Yes! I cheer out loud. I did it! I got you! James finally comprehends what has happened and whips his head up to give me a deadly glare. You caught me off guard, he states moodily. Exactly, I say happily. I nailed it. But even James can't stay mad for too long, and soon his expression softens, his lips curving into a smirk. Congratulations. This is just a translation error. I've fallen for you. Yes, wait, what? I stutter, perplexed. James slowly rises from the dirt, looking super casual about the bombshell he just dropped. You've fallen for me? I managed to choke out, my mouth turning dry. Yes, I've fallen before you. That was your intention, no? My cheeks turned poppy red in response for mishearing his words. Haha, yes, completely. I found my face to cool down. I've been racking my mind thinking about James's immune comment that I never stopped to realize. Maybe I'm the one who's not immune? Perhaps we should quit after all. Your face is getting overheated, he says. Blushing, you dimwit. On the other hand, it's a good thing he doesn't realize I thought he was confessing his love for me. And I would really rather be anywhere but here right now. My phone suddenly rings, startling the both of us. Great, a distraction, just what I need. The name on the screen reads Mr. Invisible. Yo, I'm gonna use this as a screenshot. Hello? I greet him, turning serious. You're lucky they had a job for me to do. They're busy as hell lately. Check your phone, you have your proof. I expect the papers by tomorrow. He then hangs up just as fast. Dumbfounded for a moment, I can't do anything but stare at my screen and see the small notification in the corner that I've got a message. As I open it up, I see it's a video file about 30 seconds long, but from the thumbnail alone, I can tell the man wearing a hat is Benjamin. What is that? Asks James, noticing my uncharacteristic silence. The proof we asked for, that the man he claimed was the leader of Julio, that he's alive, I say with my mouth agape. James stands next to me as I press the play button. The scene begins to play. There are ruffling sounds as the video starts to play. Mr. Invisible is operating the phone, walking around and weaving in between several people who don't notice him. He's in a large meeting room. Several board members are seated at the table. Oh, that's him. It does look like Kane. But Bilious looks like Kane as well, so I don't understand why Bilious looks like Kane. We will use that day to strike, says Benjamin. Some of us board members have concerns about this plan, says another man. Concerns? Benjamin spits out in a mocking tone. What if what our moles found out is true, that there is an imminent attack on Earth, much larger than the last one? What will happen to us if there's no one to stop him? Gentlemen, we'll be safely locked away at our bunker when that happens. We are completely safe. Okay, dumbass. When are you going to leave the bunker? How are you going to know when Earth is fine? How do you know that Earth will be fine? You're dumb. You're dumb as hell, bro. Yeah. How long do you expect us to stay in a bunk? Now, our plan comes with some risks, but it is sure to succeed. On the 18th, during the Super Day parade, when many famous supers will attend, we will begin. Plans are already set in motion. I hereby adjourn this meeting. He nudges a finger behind his suspenders. We shall resume on the 15th at the Grand Hotel. The video screen then blurs and stops. I honestly have no words for what I just watched. Not only did Mr. Invisible get proof that Benjamin is alive, but also that they're planning an attack. James looks at me, his gaze contemplative. Were they talking about the anticipation of Lord Veritas' attack? I think so, yes, but how would they know? The people you work with don't seem to be very trustworthy, he huffs, leaking out information, objects getting stolen. Yeah, Forrester Inc. is super sus, and I said earlier on that Neil was sus to me. I'm sorry, but you just can't trust a CEO, you know what I'm saying? No, they seem to be doing a poor job. I need to let Eric and Kane know about this. We wrap up our session and hurry back to the cabin. We decided to not tell Kane the news over the phone, nor send him the video. It felt wrong to send him the video of his supposedly dead father like that, so we invited him over. And the look of horror that washes over Kane's face breaks my heart. Eric looks at him with apologetic eyes. We both just want to comfort him. When the video ends, Kane pushes the phone back into my hand. His eyes look cool and devoid of any emotion. He combs his hair back with his hand and plops down onto the couch with a groan. Fuck! He yells out loud, throwing a pillow across the room. I understand his anger. This is a double whammy. Not only is your father still alive, he's also running things at Julio, actively hunting people like me and Kane, his own son. What does this mean? Is my mom alive too? He questions us. I honestly don't know at this point. I admit my limited knowledge. It's plausible at this point, Eric starts, casting his eyes down at the coffee table. The night they died, Mr. Invisible told us he was supposed to be meeting our parents. He gave them a picture of Benjamin. So far, what he said has been true, which means that he wasn't lying when he said Benjamin backstabbed them. I add to the conversation. Are you implying that... Kane gapes at me. I think our parents found out Benjamin was involved with Julio, and Benjamin killed them to silence them. Eric finishes my train of thought. All the evidence so far does point in that direction. But what about my mum? Kane asks, seemingly not conflicted at all to accept our theory. I don't know. Maybe our parents tried to warn her and she got caught in the fire, I suggest. I don't think we'll ever truly know what happened that night, not unless Benjamin tells us, says Eric. Shit, I still can't picture it. He's alive, but also Julio's boss? Kane pulls at his own hair in frustration. I think right now we should focus on the contents of the video. Mr. Invisible actually recorded a very good moment for us, I say, trying to steer Kane away from falling into rage. Plans of an attack and the location of their next meeting, the Grand Hotel. Eric nods as he closes his eyes. Hey guys, they mentioned they knew of the attack that will happen sometime this month. What if that's their goal? I ask, recalling one of the board members having concerns. What do you mean? Asks Kane. They're trying to use the super parade to strip as many supers from their abilities as possible, so that they can't fight back against Veritas' attack. Eric seems to understand. That actually makes sense. It would definitely align with their goals to wipe out superheroes. It would just cause even more chaos if there were no one left to defend us. Yeah, if supers failed to protect, then Julio could flaunt it to the world, saying this is why we don't need supers. Kane weighs in. Do we tell Forrester Inc.? I ask in a tiny voice. You heard him last time. He's got it handled. Eric huffs, mimicking Neil's voice. They don't want our help. Fine by me. We can do this ourselves. Guys, are we really doing this? Kane asks, looking at us with these innocent eyes. Are we turning vigilantes? I stroke his head with a comforting but pained smile. It's too late for that. We already are. Eric looks at us. So, we all in? I nod at him. Yes. Then I turn to Kane. Let's infiltrate them and apprehend my dad, he says, determined. He's got some questions to answer. He certainly does. It's a bit early, I guess, for that to happen. If we're going to infiltrate, we need all the help we can get. Julio is serious business. They not only have weapons, but they also seem to employ various supers to their cause. Not to mention Mr. Invisible said that Benjamin never leaves without an army of bodyguards. And that is why I'm asking for your help, I say, looking at Eok and James. Eok bows in front of me. It would be my honor to serve you, Valkii. He immediately accepts. How do they undo the oath again? Does she just have to be like, I free you from my oath? I smile at him, knowing that's what his response would be. But the question is, will James? This plan of the terrorists, are they specifically targeting Lord Veritas' return? He asks. I believe so. At least that's what we can infer from the video. They want to attack supers and strip them of their power so that... I look solemnly. I look down solemnly? I look away solemnly? What are you doing solemnly? Apart from look, you can't look solemnly, right? Whatever. So that there's no one left to fight Veritas. Kane and Eric and I gathered. This is what the meeting is about. What they were planning to do with the super parade, and one of the men mentioning the imminent attack. They want to make sure no one can fight back, so that it'll create even more chaos, while they safely sit in a bunker somewhere. If Veritas can kill a bunch of supers, that's a job well done for them. And obviously, we have to exterminate these cretins. James looks like he's made up his mind. A little less on the exterminating, please. I chuckle awkwardly. Will I receive a supersuit as well? Eok asks excitedly. Of course! We have to match now that we're all on the same side, I say, smiling broadly. You will have to glamour back into a human, though, I address. Ah, out in public. Yes, I understand. We have no time left to waste. We must prepare a new training regime at once, James barks out. His brown eyes lock with mine. You included. I totally understand. We definitely need to prepare. Alright, they're in. If Julio is gathering on the 15th, we have a week left to plan and prepare. There we go. Alright. We got a little bit of something. We got a little bit of something there. We got a little bit of something, which is better than nothing. I just hope there's more coming. But it just seems, okay, again, let's look, shall we? We're counting down these chapters. This is the last chapter before we get our passionate ending. So does everything get concluded in this one, and then we're gonna get romance, romance, romance? Or... I don't know. It's been so long that I can't actually remember how it works out. Anyway, I will see you in the next one.